I'm a bit rusty here. I haven't made a video for this channel and the mindset that I need to be in whenever I make these talking videos. And it's strange. And even though it doesn't really matter in my mind, there was a weird fear that came up about doing a good job for this video. And I'm just like, what is this? And I kind of got paralyzed, like just kind of scared to make a video. It was really weird. I had the concept that I'm going to be talking about is why your best self always fails. And there's a whole bunch of thinking around this. And I'm not really confident that I'll be able to translate what's in my head. And I don't really feel like writing it out. I feel like getting something out there, getting the idea out there, and testing out this idea, just talking and really trying to eliminate fear, which caused more fear because I was aware of it. And it's an interesting thing, and how awareness can really change your whole self. And the weird thing about self is that it's a very complicated topic, and it's really weird. So let's start with the more clear-cut things that I want to say, which is, so your best self will always fail. And the reason that is because your best self is only a fraction of something. So you can't always do your best. You can't always be great. It's impossible. And I'll give you some really solid examples. But the first one is because you have more than one self. And this is known throughout psychology. So, for instance, one of the selves is the experiential self, the self that, feels and understands and remembers the life. And this is what you would say would be, it would disappear if you died. And then you would be the other self, which would be your physical self, right? Your place in the world. And this objective self is absolute. The other self it's the experiential way, right? And then there's another self as well, which is the one that's associative of the world. It's like a social. So you have many selves. So if you're doing your best self, that's kind of like the objective one, being like barking orders and doing that. But then, you would tell your narrative self, the experiential one, that it should be doing this and being good. But as soon as it's doing that, then it starts to take over. Then you are no longer doing your best self. You are now switched gears. So therefore you can't be your best self. So you're always having this juggling bout between these two quite often. And then you have what is best. So your body and your mind are going to define what is best. And that's the third one, the social one. So if we look at it as like, what is the best self anyways? Well, I would say it's more of the objective self, giving the barking orders. And then the experiential self takes over and does the work, and then drifts away and then says, hey, a great example would be this is, I want to have a good body, but right now I want to have the cake, So your future self is the other one, is more narrative, objective. And that's another weird thing about this, because you got to think about how weird it is that our self changes in time, right? So we have timed versions of ourselves. It's super complicated, but I mean, you got to think about it. Like, who were you when you were 15 versus who you are today? It's changed, it's evolved, but you're still the same, right? You're still you. And it's really bizarre. And even within roles of time, past, present, future, you're going to always have that. A lot of times I've found, for me, I can only speak for me, is that my narrative self lives in this future ideal. It doesn't understand what experiences are going to be like in the future. Almost always it's that experiential version and mindset that really kind of takes over and says, no, I don't really care. I'm so blind to the future. I just want this cake right now. And then the narrative would be like, no, you don't. You want to have a perfect body or whatever. You want to be healthy. And then there's that war, but it's within time. And it's really weird. So I found that when I heard somebody being like, oh, you got to live your best life, be disciplined, do all this stuff, I'm just like, this is insanity. You can't do that. There's no way. And that's why everybody fails at so much in life. It's not possible. We switch roles. And if you look into a dissociative identity disorder, it's fascinating, by the way, but you'll find that people with this disorder, they start to compartmentalize their alters in like different parts of their personality that have different roles, right? And these are formed almost always through severe trauma, and at usually a younger age. And what happens is it's like they get split up, they get created, and the personality becomes many. They don't really ever come back together to reform the singular self. And I would have to say that at times we all kind of get our own alters. We get a personality side of us that maybe is hot-tempered and protective, but maybe a little bit cold. And then we have a very sensitive side who, maybe is a little bit hard on themselves or feeling traumatic or victimized. Now, these are obviously just personality parts of you, and so on. But if we look at it in an extreme example where they get really separated, you can look at it and say, well, if this is it in harder, more separated extreme conditions, what could this gradient of color personalities be like for everybody else? And that's why I say best self, because there's only kind of like one true best self, but it's not the one that experiences life as much. In fact, it doesn't for the most part. So if we got to think about it as more of an ecosystem, that is really the solution. So if we look at ourself as not a singular, but as many, and as many parts of us, and they move and then they change and they get affected and change over time and everything. It's the example of why I believe it's hard to make it to the gym or hold off and get a salad or so on, because we're considering the other parts of us as we're in one. And it's weird. It's a weird thing to do, to be like, I want this now, but this delayed gratification, it's really difficult. So it's very challenging. Now, how do you overcome this? What I've found, and many people agree to, is meditation is the best practice. So meditation is a practice. It's not an outcome. It's getting used to keeping yourself in like a director's chair of the harmony of selves, of identity, of your mind. So when you're meditating, you drift off and you're thinking about something else, and you're like, oh wait, I gotta get back. And when you first do it, it's like 5-10 minutes at a time, you drift off and you're like, oh wait, I was supposed to be meditating. Well, you keep doing that, the faster you come back, the faster you go, oh wait, no, I'm meditating. And then you drift up and back. And that happens a lot faster. And because of that practice, that's when you end up having your life in control. The more you can return to your managerial position of yourself, the better you can live your life. And that's when you actually live your best self, right? That's because it's all of you and it's considerate. I want to interject here because on my app that I have right now, I have free meditations for you guys, and it's masculine meditation. So I don't like the wishy-washy crap. I like it to be just like, hey, this is the stuff that you need to hear. This is the stuff that helps you remember. Here's like pretty music that goes for 20 minutes, so I know when it's over and there's no talking. It's optional. So I'll put a link to that below if you want free meditations that I believe are some of the best there is, and it's free. Yeah. So I just wanted to cover this, and it was good to get it out. I gotta say, like, when you just talk sometimes you just got to get going. Like, that fear can be overwhelming, and it's so strange. It's very strange how, you know, you can get paralyzed by your own mind, even though you've done things many times before, and it's just weird. So I just wanted to make a video, talk about something that I was thinking a little bit about lately, and I guess I'm now officially feel like a lot of people aren't covering the whole story when they're like, do your best, you know. So, all right, till next time. Cheers.